Hey guys! Since so many of you wanted to see more watercolor paintings and technique videos, I will show you another 3 watercolor designs that you can turn into notebook covers. To create the first design, begin by applying some water onto a sheet of watercolor paper that has the same size as your notebook cover. Apply a generous amount of watercolor as we're going to use the wet and wet technique I talked about in the latest watercolor for beginners video. Next, load up your wet brush with the color of your choice and then decide from where you want the different colors to radiate from. And then start dabbing the color onto the paper. For this technique, you can use any color you like. You can create a nice gradient effect between a few colors or just by using 2 different colors, whatever you prefer. Once you cover the paper with paint, take a piece of cling film that is larger than the paper and place it on top. And now begin twisting it at the point you have selected in the beginning. Carefully do that until you can see how the cling film starts to create all these folds, creating an interesting pattern. You can move it around as well until you're happy. Now let everything completely dry and we can remove the cling film. And this is how it looks so far. You can leave it like that, but what I did next was I loaded up my brush with lots of water and then went over the areas where the cling film touched the paper to even out the dried paint. You can do that with every section of the design or just at some areas to make the design more interesting. Be sure to clean the brush each time so you don't accidentally add colors you don't want. Since this design kind of reminded me of Sailor Moon's transformation and a butterfly, I went ahead and lined out the design using a white ink pen. By the way, I have all my supplies linked in the description box if you're interested in which materials I'm using. I also decided to add more lines inside the design, but this is optional. To finish up the pattern, you can also paint a heart or something else you like using acrylic paint and then outline it with a black fineliner. Or you can also cut out a shape using paper, this way you can easily write something on top. And this is how the first design looks in the end. I like the fact that you can customize it however you like and make it look super unique every time. And since you guys wanted to see a tutorial on a Dreamcatcher as well, I'm going to show you how you can paint it in an easy way and make it into a notebook cover. Begin by outlining a semicircle at the top area of your watercolor paper that has the same size as your notebook cover. And then draw another semicircle inside while leaving some space in between. From here, start drawing leaf-shaped lines starting from the bottom part of the circle. Now draw more of these lines on the right and the left side and also in between. Be sure to pay attention where the center of the circle is because all these lines should start from that point. Next, I went ahead and drew a few beads onto the threads at different areas. And now we can move on to the feathers. For this design, I wanted to draw 3 strings and attach 2 or 3 feathers together. There are different techniques how to draw feathers, but for this version, think about how you would draw a leaf. Try to make the overall shape look like an upside down drop with a few cutout areas. This way the feather will look a lot more realistic and cute. And for the top part of the feather, I just randomly added lines to make the top part look fluffy. And now we can add more details. If you want, you can add more beads to the strings and add a few ribbons that are hanging down in between the feathers. Once you're happy with the outlines, we can start painting. Load up your brush with a bright brown color and start painting the hoop. While this is drying, we can move on to the feathers. Since watercolor needs time to dry, I would recommend painting everything in steps. Start with one feather and move on to another feather that is not close to it so it has time to dry, or otherwise the paint will run into each other. For this version, I wanted to keep the design of the feathers really simple. I colored them with just one color for now so I can add more details later. Now while some of the feathers are drying, you can go back to the upper part of the painting and paint the beads. Leave a small white dot on the upper right corner while painting the beads. This is where the light reflects. While the beads are drying, you can paint the ribbons, the rest of the feathers and beads. Now with a really thin brush you can paint the threads now, but be sure the beads are completely dry before you do that. If you watch my other videos about watercolor techniques, you will be familiar with the next technique, and that's glazing. Once the feathers are completely dry, you can go over with another color and paint either completely over the feathers or just at some areas to change the tone of the first layer of paint. When everything is dry, you can sprinkle some watercolor drops on top, but this is optional. Let everything completely dry and now we can add more details. For this step, I'm using my beloved white ink pen. You can outline the feathers and add more lines on top. If you want, you can also outline everything with a black fineliner. This will make the painting look a bit more cartoonish, but it will also make the colors pop more. And this is the final result. I think it turned out really cute. What do you guys think? Now for the last technique, you're going to need some sticky labels and a puncher. Since we're going to make a galaxy, I'm using a star-shaped puncher. Start by punching out little stars. These are going to be stickers that we will use for our painting. Once you punched out a bunch of stickers, remove the backside and begin applying them to different areas of the paper. I did that rather randomly. I just made sure that the stars are not too close to each other. And now we can paint the galaxy. Start at one side of the paper and start dabbing on one color. For this design, I'm using different blue shades that I mixed with a little bit of red. Apply the different shades of color at different areas so it looks more natural and make them slightly run into each other. This way the design will look more interesting in the end. Be sure the stars are completely covered with paint as well. Once you cover the paper completely, you can get back and add another layer of paint, but this time using more paint than water to get a darker shade of color. Remember that watercolors will look a lot brighter and lighter once they're dry. Let the paper completely dry and then we can remove the stickers to reveal the white stars. This technique is great because you can actually use stickers in any shape depending on the design you want to create. To make the design more interesting, I connected some of the stars into a star constellation that I looked up on the internet. Once you're done, you can also add more stars using white acrylic paint. Let everything completely dry and you're done. All we need to do now is either framing our artwork or gluing it onto our notebooks. It was really fun painting these designs and I'm really happy how they turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If so, I would really appreciate it if you will give this video a thumbs up to support this channel. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe for more arts and crafts related videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching guys, have a wonderful day and I will see you next week. Bye!